I'm OG, y'all new to the game.
Hello everybody, my name is Mark and welcome here to the Film Enthusiast channel. We're doing a nice review of Singing in the Rain. It was directed by Gene Kelly and Stanley Donen. It was produced in 1952 by the company of Warner Brothers. Of course, you have Gene Kelly starring as Don Lockwood. Don Lockwood is a movie actor inside the movie. He kind of plays as kind of a person trying to find himself, and he's trying to find who he wants to be in certain musicals and acts and all that stuff. At the time during the film, you have of course Don Lockwood starring in the silent movie films, because it's around the era where they're starting to bring in voices to the movies and that sorts. So it was still part of kind of the transitions between silent movies to the talkies, as they would say. Of course, and then you have Donald O'Connor is another starring actor inside this movie. It's a great film, by the way. He plays Cosmo. Cosmo is Don Lockwood's best friend. He's kind of been there since the beginning. You see him in a flashback where it was him and Don Lockwood trying to figure out who they wanted to be. They were just kind of stage people where they just traveled around the world doing tours, singing, dancing on stage for acts and that sorts, until they kind of got famous and went into more of the studio kind of career in Hollywood, which Don Lockwood became the stunt double that actually got his name pretty high out there. As well as Donald O'Connor became more of the musical type person inside this stuff. That's where, of course, Don Lockwood meets Lena Lamont, which is played by Jean Hagen. She's kind of a character that thinks that she's really in love with Don Lockwood, but little does she know, Don Lockwood actually has zero feelings for her in the entire film. He kind of despises her because she's kind of has this annoying voice that you guys will not really like. She's got a really annoying voice, and kind of just really selfish, and kind of reminds you of kind of the Barbie kind of type thing, where it's like, oh my god, Jennifer, kind of that kind of stuff. And then, of course, you have Debbie Reynolds, who plays Kathy Selden. Just a quick fun fact about Debbie Reynolds is that she's actually the mother of Carrie Fisher, which everyone knows to be Princess Leia in the Star Wars films. So Debbie Reynolds is a pretty well-known actress and singer. And of course, during this time, she was just starting out. She got out of film school, and she was starting out her career, and she kind of locked this cool deal down with the producer, and they said, hey, you're going to be working with Gene Kelly on this film called Singing in the Rain, and she was pretty stoked about it. But Kathy is an actress, which is kind of funny because Don Lockwood and her meet inside a car when he tries to escape his paparazzi fans that are just all over him. So it's just kind of funny because she kind of discriminates him, or not discriminates, but she kind of insults him in a way that the way he acts is not really kind of acting. It's more just silent filming. You're just kind of mouthing the words. In a silent film, you're just kind of like that, until they kind of get further into kind of a character build-up and relationship where they actually become best friends, and it all leads up to Don Lockwood working on a film with Lena Lamont called The Dueling Cavalier, and it's a silent film until they kind of make the transition to make it into a talkie, and they do a kind of movie premiere, and the fans don't really like it because Lena Lamont does not have like a solid voice. It kind of looks funny because they kind of were making more of a joke on Hollywood where they had to deal with the mic and how, of course, that Lena would stop, kind of would look away from the mic, and many times they would lose audio, and of course, which the fans that were watching it, the movie premiere inside the film, were kind of upset. So then they came up to a realization, of course, to Don Lockwood and Debbie Reynolds, or I'm sorry, Don Lockwood and Kathy Selden, to create the Dancing Cavalier, which is basically taking the Dueling Cavalier into a musical, and they had Kathy Selden play all of and talk for all of Lena Lamont's parts. So of course the singing and the talking. So it was all covered that, and it was all in secret until towards the end of the film, where you have kind of a tension between Lena Lamont and Kathy Selden, because Lena figures out that she's no longer in the movie and kind of this person's playing it for her and that kind of sorts. But it all ends with the happy ever ending where Kathy and Don Lockwood kind of forever together inside this giant billboard with Singing on the Rain on it. So that's kind of like the summary of the entire thing. Obviously, I really liked this film. You know, I really liked the singing and the choreography of the dancing and musical parts of it. I really enjoyed how Gene Kelly played his character Don Lockwood. He kind of reminds me kind of a famous actor that's kind of just lost his way, and he's just trying to find who he is. Finds a girl. The girl kind of brings them back together, and they get all of that situated. Of course, you have Cosmo, Donald O'Connor. I'm sorry. He kind of plays more of like the comedian in the film, which is he does a pretty okay job. And I say okay because some of the scenes he does make really, really funny, where the viewer will laugh a lot. But in most of the cases, a lot of the times, you sit there and you're sitting there like, Cosmo, what are we doing? Like, it's not really that funny. So I think Donald O'Connor did a pretty good job doing that. His singing and choreography was obviously fantastic, hands down. And then of course you have Debbie Reynolds plays an awesome job at Kathy Selden. She absolutely shows great emotions. Her voice is amazing. I really loved her voice. Her choreography didn't really look professional, and that's what a lot of people said later on, is she wasn't really a dancer, and she was kind of in a musical, so it was kind of a struggle for her, and all that kind of stuff. But I really think she did a well job at what she was doing. I really enjoyed kind of the way they set up the scenes, where you have the mise-en-scène, where you have the way they kind of showed the inner thoughts of Don Lockwood and how he was imagining how he wanted the Dancing Cavalier to be, and kind of like the story that it shows through the musical. So I know there's a bunch of singing, but through in the musical you can actually see you can kind of see the narrative of what's going on, and that's what I think they did a really good job. Another thing was kind of the editing and sound. They did a fantastic job on that. The sound was great, clear voices, all that stuff. Of course, it's come from a famous movie and all that stuff. I really enjoyed the kind of cinematography that they added into it. Of course, all types of views, especially like the bird's eye view, when they showed the kind of commercial in the 50s where it's showing all the clothes for the women, and I thought that was pretty cool. And of course the deep focus shot in the theater towards the end, where you have the deep focus of Kathy looking at Don Lockwood, and Don Lockwood is pretty small because obviously she's like 60 rows back and he's on the stage. So I thought they did that a really good job. especially loved how they did the J cut sound when they were doing the movie premiere, where Lena was saying no, 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 and it was kind of like it was to show that it was out of sync. So you would see the scene where the person's saying no, 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 but like no, 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 like it'd be like it was out of sync. So it was kind of like they would mouth no, 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 and then 3 seconds later no, no, no. So it was kind of like a perfect J cut sound to kind of show the satire of the struggles of Hollywood during that time. So I thought they did a great job on that. They used a lot of dissolves and fades to kind of fade into memories and kind of the inner thoughts of characters, which I thought they did fantastic. I really loved how they did the kind of satire of what they kind of made fun of in Hollywood. So you have the adoring fans, but the adoring fans are trying to rip Don Lockwood apart. And then you just have the way that they just make fun of Hollywood in that way. But overall, I think it was a really good movie. I would give it about an 8 out of 10. I really, really liked it. The musicals was great. I mean, I was personally shocked to see how well of a singer Debbie Reynolds was. But overall, I thought it was pretty well. I mean, other than the fact that you did have some kind of wacky scenes where Cosmo was doing these jokes and they weren't really that funny. But most of the jokes were kind of funny. And then, of course, you have some of the scenes were just kind of out of whack in a way, where it just seemed kind of weird. The dancing kind of seemed off or something like that. But most of the movie was really fantastic. I really loved how they did most of the stuff and cinematography, mise-en-scène, and all that kind of stuff that really put this film really good together. So like I said, I would give it an 8 out of 10. Singing in the Rain, that was produced in 1952. So it's kind of cool to see, 21st century person looking back to a 1952 film. And as a review, I really liked the film. And if many of you guys have not seen it, I'd really recommend it. A lot of Flash people talk about it. I know I'm going. Sorry, I know I'm going way off track, but I appreciate you guys watching this. If you guys think this in class, period 7. But like I said, this is Mark Munden doing a review on Singing in the Rain. I appreciate you joining in, and thank you.